Okay, this one's going to be a little bit longer of a video than last time, but I'll see if I can help a little bit more with some of this. Okay, you're on next gen. I'm on next gen also. I believe that next gen has different problems than old gen, and I believe that old gen has problems, engine problems, which may be caused by modding the game outside of normal game logic, using plugins, F4SE, things like that. And that's just part of the game. In honesty, to be honest, there's no real reason that team would take offense to that, because anytime, if I was to reverse engineer something, then it happens outside of game logic, and it is a possibility. It may or may not be something they can fix or can be addressed. So, old gen had its own unique issues, and I think next gen is the same. It has its own unique set of problems. And I think some of that is pathing issues, and I have no loose file streams anymore, so I'm assuming that was old gen. That must be some of their stability enhancements they talked about. But somehow now, and I don't know because I haven't looked at the old gen systems, and I've just now noticed it with the next gen, is for some reason the object physics aren't being associated with the actual object itself. I've seen object physics which are invisible. The actual object itself you can see, which is, the mesh and the texture, but the actual physics is in another location. Like the XYZ is all, it's somewhere else. It's really, really strange. I'm assuming that's an offset somewhere, that somehow everything is relative. It's a relative XYZ position, I'm assuming from the workbench, so somehow that is being confused. I think what's happening is it's taking the positioning from another workshop. My belief is that the reason there are problems with the workshops now is, and that's the objects, and this is, and from what I understand, somebody also said that it happened even outside of transfer settlements. So I think some settlements in some of the place objects, they'll go in and they'll click on it in workshop mode, and they can't click on it, because it's it's missing its physics. So I think that's a next gen issue, but I cannot tell you because I haven't reverse engineered anything, so I cannot tell you whether it's a plugin issue or if it's a game engine issue. So to me, it kind of decides what a person wants to. It's just what you want to accept. There's more plugins for the old gen. I'm using next gen, and the reason I do that is because if Microsoft decides to update the code in the future, then that means the plugins are going to have to be updated. And I imagine a lot of people have spent a lot of time, working with Fallout 4, and they're kind of done. They don't want to do it anymore. It's been quite a few years. I can understand that. However, I wish before they had left the community, if they would have passed the torch on to somebody else, so somebody else could pick up and continue to manage that. But, and I have my own kind of theories about that, but we'll talk about all that stuff later. Okay, I can see your full load order. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. An actual text list might be easier to look at. That way I can easily filter and look for things. I've noticed with this current playthrough that I'm doing, I've added some new mods. I even tried re-enabling, let me bring this up. So I tried re-enabling the spell perk distributor after uninstalling literally uninstalling the true damage files, and it still died. I still got a crash. But I had some interesting pathing issues. These are two pathing crashes. This was in, it was in Lexington, actually, going into the parking garage. Loading, I actually, I exited the game, went and, had to go do some stuff, came back, loaded up in the parking garage, instant crash. That was this one. And then once I was inside the parking garage, it crashed. And these are pathing issues. I've never seen this before. Now, I have added some new mods. So if I take a look here, there are some new mods I added for this new playthrough. So, I'm not really too worried about the stability numbers. That's just there so that when I have a final product, or if I have a final product, I can say, hey, if you use this load order, this is a stability you can expect. And on a side note, this is, I know you said you don't use the mod manager. I kind of do and I don't. Everything coded into this program is how I understand modding to be. So that's just kind of what I did is I coded my manual logic into a program that makes it a little bit easier for me. But it still installs and removes files. It still does all that kind of stuff. Okay, so you can see that from the first time I actually installed a few things here, and then I actually installed some more during game playthrough. And I noticed in some posts, some people had said the mods like not extended Raider gangs, but I think it was like unique Raider gangs or something, or roving Raider gangs. These mods here, these right here, these particular ones, they actually could have caused the issue. I'm not sure because it's all brand new. So I started a new game and I'm going through the motions again. And believe me, it gets really, really old. It does. But that's the only way I can test to see whether it is one of these mods, which I believe it is, because I didn't have this kind of stability issue until I started a new game. However, I have noticed that if I'm playing a game, it looks stable, I add mods, it looks stable, but then all of a sudden I start a brand new game, it destabilized. Because I'm already past certain parts of that game, such as Sanctuary, Red Rocket, things like that. Now, whether those are the issues or not, I'm not sure. I'm looking at the raw variables, the differences. So the difference between adding something mid-game and adding it now, or when you start a new game, is that all those quests are already complete. So, the game really doesn't have to deal with that. So it's kind of deceptive in a way. You almost have to start a brand new game from scratch and literally finish the whole thing out and test everything to see if it actually works. And most people don't do that. I don't do that. If I see something, new, I'm like, okay, I'm going to throw this in. Let me give it a shot and see what happens. Okay. So, and also you said you were on... See, about 20 minutes. Some quests. If you're on a PC, I think you're on a PC. Maybe I didn't actually. To be honest, I haven't really looked too close. But if you are, let's see. Yeah. I tried using Buffout 4. Okay, good. So the Buffout logs might help. Not the scanner part, but the actual Buffout logs itself might help if you can post them when you crash. But since you're on a PC, let me see here. Where are we? Yeah, okay. So since you're on a PC, posting the Buffout logs would help. And I actually lost my train of thought because I got like a whole bunch of things going on in the morning, and I'm trying to. We're actually kind of rearranging and remodeling the basement, so to speak, and we're trying to do other parts of the house as well. So I've got the garage, and it's long overdue. So there's like so many things going on here. It's not funny, but Linux uses Wine. Wine's come a long way, and imagine Wine as a jump table. Imagine that a call to render something. Let's say you use a 3D rendering routine. It needs variables, it needs structures and variables, and then you just simply make that call. You call that library function. And that's what Wine does. So it replicates the structures, it replicates the parameters that are passed on the stack, and then it calls that. It's like a jump table. So to draw this, you go to this address, or you call this API function. That's kind of like what Wine does. Unless you're using the OpenGL as opposed to DirectX, which is Microsoft stuff. So maybe not. I doubt it, because a lot of times with large load orders, you're going to have crashes, and I don't think it's necessarily because of Linux. I mean, it could be. It depends. So that's another potential variable. Remember, the game engine is not exactly super stable, even on its own with no mods added. And I know you said you don't use a mod manager. That's okay. There are times when I installed mods manually. You don't. A person that knows how to, just install mods, they don't really need a mod manager. It makes it a little bit easier if you're doing something that has a lot of options to it, because you don't have to read the module XML, module config, or whatever it is, XML file to see what the options are. You don't have to do that, I mean, well, if you do it manually, you'll need to take a look at it and try to figure it out. And sometimes the structure, even though it's a faux mod, sometimes it's pretty easy to figure out just by looking at it. But other times there's lots of options. And if you had any missing masters or something, it's not going to load those plugins. I wouldn't think. It may crash. I don't know. I'm not sure how Bethesda does that, but so loot sorting your plugins is not necessarily a bad idea. It is a good start. I'm not sure what master list is. I had an idea for sorting, which I was working in the program I'm using, and I have like a regular kind of a sort which goes by category. Whether it's an ESM, ESP, ESL, creation club. It has categories, and then within your categories, you want to put your plugin after all of the other masters that it requires. But also I had an idea of what would be considered like a master list. I had also thought of that for sorting, where what I would do is I would have this gigantic master list of everything that goes in a certain order, and I would use that to sort my load order. So even, a master list would have all the potential plugins I could possibly use, whether I'm going to use them or not, but it knows that this one comes before this one comes after this one, and so forth and so on. So that's one of the things that I've thought of, and I've kind of got it in there, but I haven't really implemented it yet, but it is in the sorting thing. So this may help and may not. It just depends. The thing about loot and the thing about sorting your mods is there's always going to be a conflict. There always will. Some mods are going to conflict with others. So the idea is either you have to make an Xedit patch which combines different fields in the same record into a new record that has all the fields you want, or you're gonna or there's going to be certain things that's not going to be in the game or not going to function like you think it is because one mod has gotten overwritten by another. So it just depends on what a person can live with. It's hard for, like, with me personally, like, anytime I have a stable load order, I'm going to add some stuff. It's impossible not to do. Like, it's like breathing. Once I know that I'm healthy, I'm going to eat some donuts or something. It's kind of like or I'm going to Taco Bell. Going to go to Taco Bell. Going to grab some tacos. Once I, exercise or something and I start feeling, strong, I'm going to take 2 weeks and do nothing and have to start all over again. It's just how it is. So, if I have a load order that works, as you saw, it ran pretty good for about a day, I'm going to add stuff and it's going to completely jank it up. All right, so let me cut this a little bit short, and I will come back in a little bit. I've got to run off and do something, and I'll see if I can help some more. All right, so good luck, and try and have fun. I know it's hard, but just give it a shot, and if not, I'll see if there's anything maybe that I can offer that will help. All right, so good luck.